and we can start this meeting. So welcome everybody to this quarter's quarterly meeting. Instead of going around and having everybody introduce themselves, what I would like is if everybody can just chat your name and your neighborhood in the chat, and it'll save the I have learned since the last meeting that Zoom does save the chat, so I can save that, and when this is all over, I will be sending out the agenda with the chat and a recording of this meeting. So if you need to jump out early or if you join late or something like that, no worries. There'll be a full recording of it and I will share it later. But first things first, I'll keep sharing this agenda because I'm guessing that the people who just joined can't see it. So and if there's anything as we go along that you would like me to add to the agenda, feel free to let me know and just shout it out. But I do also think that there are few of us. There aren't that many of us. So if you do want to say something, just feel free to unmute yourselves and just kind of say that you have something to say. So you don't have to ask permission to talk or anything. But basically what we're going to go over today, like most months, we'll have updates from us, from Bike Pittsburgh. I'll talk about Move Forward, the endorsement for Move Forward, give a short update on neighborways. We can have a discussion on public engagement and the role that bike ped groups can have in public engagement. Then I wanted to give a short update about slow streets. I wanted to talk about the advocacy workshop series that I put together and have a short discussion on parking day. Then I'll turn things over to Kelsey Ripper, who's the executive director of Friends of the Riverfront, brand new to that position, and she'll be giving a presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A with her, and then it'll be all of your turn to give updates from your groups, whatever you're doing, and then if there's anything that we forgot and if there's enough time, it's open discussion. So just to get started. So how many of you have heard of Move Forward? Hopefully all of you have heard of it at this point. Great. So Move Forward, if you haven't heard of it, is a program spearheaded by the city and then supported with with Bike Pittsburgh and Healthy Ride to rapidly implement the Bike Plus plan in the next 2 years to put in 60 miles of new or improved bike infrastructure. Right now, it kind of got off to a rough start because of COVID. And so a lot of the construction and the original communication and outreach strategy that had been planned everything had to be kind of thrown off the table, and everything had to start from scratch, and different platforms had to be thought about and used. But we are where we are now, and we are working to implement these 60 miles in the next 2 years. It is part of it is putting in a lot of different types of infrastructure. One of those are neighborways. They're also looking at upgrading current bike infrastructure to make it more protected or better usage, like user-friendly. And they're also starting by trying to connect the existing network before they go into neighborhoods and expand the network into neighborhoods. So I know there's been a lot of discussion around equity, which is valid, and going into like doing specific neighborhood projects. But from my understanding, what the project is looking at initially is doing a connection of what is existing, and then the Bike Plus plan's initial plan is in the next 10 years completing everything that was laid out in the plan. So this is just for the next 2 years, and we are almost done with the first year, and then moving on to finish the rest of the Bike Plus plan. So one thing I wanted to bring up too is I believe I'd sent around to everybody, but I just wanted to share it here again in the chat, is this endorsement. So I believe I'd asked most bike ped groups to look at this, discuss with your bike ped groups, you know, at your monthly meetings or through your Google groups or whatever way that you like to communicate, and sign on if your group so feels inclined. It's definitely not necessary, but your endorsement definitely will help to show support for this project and support for the bike plan and for these different types of things. It's definitely, the endorsement is not endorsing specific projects, it's endorsing move forward in general, like the concept and the approach in general. So it's not asking people to say that they like support a specific project, it's just move forward in general. So I didn't want there to be confusion about that. But if you can discuss that amongst your bike ped groups, and if you do support it, sign on through that Google Doc. And if you have questions, feel free. Liz.
Sorry, sidetracked. Do you want more than one of us in the group to endorse it? Like, is that helpful, or do you just want one person from an organization? Like,
yeah, I think just like youth representing Southside Smart Streets is what we're looking for. We've asked a bunch of different nonprofits, and it's just like, you know, Tree Pittsburgh. I don't know if Tree Pittsburgh has done this, but like just in general, it's like Tree Pittsburgh has signed on to support Move Forward. I'm also not sure if Friends of the Riverfront has done it, but it's like Friends of the Riverfront has done it, you know, or something like that. It's like each of your groups individually sign on as just the group, with like a point person. So if we do need to contact somebody about the endorsement, or, you know, if there's follow-up or something, and then your names get listed, not your name, but your group's name will get listed on the Move Forward website as a supporter.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions about that before we move on? Okay, so neighborways. I wanted to bring this up. I'm sure some of you are aware that there have been neighborways that are coming possibly to your own neighborhood. A neighborway is the newest street type in Pittsburgh, which it basically converts a neighborhood street into a more bikeable, walkable experience for the neighborhood. I wanted to show a quick video. I think I might have actually showed this at the last meeting, but I wanted to show it again since there might be new faces on here. So just bear with me as I get it up. Share. Can you see it? Can you see? Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
I'm never sure.
A neighborway is the newest type of street in the city of Pittsburgh. A neighborway is a street where motor vehicle speeds and volumes are kept low to make it more comfortable for existing residents, while also making it safer to walk, ride a bike, and for kids to play. These traffic calming streets provide an alternate route to a major arterial road and have minimal impact on parking and the existing street layout. Whether you drive, walk, roll, or play, your street will be safer and your transportation options will improve. Neighborways create the connections toward a low-stress, all ages and abilities bike network. The route will include neighborhood traffic circles, wayfinding, and other traffic calming measures where appropriate.
So anyways, that is just like the basic of what a neighborway is. And it, not every neighborway is going to look the same. For example, the South Side is probably the first completed neighborway in the city, and it isn't a continuous street. It's kind of like a connection of streets that take cyclists off of East Carson Street, and their major infrastructure for traffic calming are speed humps. There's also one going in Lawrenceville that is also using speed humps, and there's also one in Polish Hill using speed humps. And right now, there are public meetings going on for one in Point Breeze on Reynolds Street, in Bloomfield Friendship on Comrie and Coral Way, and there's a second portion of the Lawrenceville one in Upper Lawrenceville that's also being looked at. And right now, those are the only neighbor ways that are going in. But that's just a general overview. I know there might be a lot of questions on neighbor ways, so I kind of wanted to open it up to hear what you all have questions on.
Is this, oh,
Oh, John, sorry, I'm sorry.
oh, you can hear me now. Yeah, I'm still trying to navigate here. Sorry you can't see me. It's just the thing isn't working that much. But is this really just to respond to this summer because of the pandemic, or is this something they might be, going forward, assuming things return back to normal next summer, that kind of thing?
So neighbor ways are permanent. What is temporary are slow streets, and the slow street program is just, it's basically just an A-frame that goes on the end of a street to designate that the residents there would like it to only be local traffic and to slow your speeding down while you are driving through that area. So it's to help cut through traffic go down to a minimum, whereas the neighbor way is a permanent infrastructure that is part of the Bike Plus plan, and it will be connecting the bike network.
Well,
Does Euclid Street in Highland Park, is that one also?
Yes.
That's what, yeah, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that connects to East Liberty Boulevard and runs up to the park, and it helps
Right.
to get cyclists off of Highland Avenue. It also connects to some schools and churches.
Yeah, question about that North Euclid Neighborway. So at the last public meeting on July 30th, there was discussion, or in there, I was just looking at their slides, and it said that the rest of the roundabouts would be installed by mid-August, and we still haven't seen that. So I was curious if you knew of any updates or what we need to do to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. As far as I know, they were extending the pilot to give it a little bit more time for the ADA community to experience it a little bit more thoroughly. And I believe that the construction contractors were also delayed in their work because of COVID. Everything has been pushed back, and I think the original date that the contractors gave was mid-August, but then the contractors, because of COVID and a bunch of other projects that got pushed back, had to push this project back as well.
Okay, so you don't really know when those will be going in?
The last I heard was just fall.
Okay.
So probably late September, mid-October, because construction has to be in, I believe, before mid-November when the temperature really starts to dip.
Yeah, okay.
And if it doesn't go in by then, they would have to wait till next year,
Okay.
just because of weather.
Mhm. I'm wondering, should we, as a committee, or for the Highland Park East Liberty Committee, should we send like a follow-up request to Domi and say, hey, just so you haven't forgotten about us?
I mean, it's definitely worth it, but I think right now it's mostly revolving around construction and contractors, but it would still be beneficial for you to find out more of a date.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
And I'm sorry. Georgia's waving.
Hey, I feel like I think I rode the one on Euclid recently. I feel like the signage is kind of small.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I missed some of the, you know what I mean? Like those directional signs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's no way to change that.
I can ask about it. I think there was a lot of complaint about the height of them, but I haven't heard yet about a comment yet on the size.
Gotcha. I was just thinking, when I lived in, I think in Portland, they call them bike boulevards, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And you can kind of just zip through neighborhoods and get to where you're going just by looking at these signs. In addition to that, I think they also have directional insignias painted on the street itself. So you're like, oh, like I'm headed towards Lawrenceville. Like it'll have like an arrow that'll kind of help you guide you that way. as well. I don't know, just kind of takes the guesswork out of it
Yeah,
for the casual cyclist. But
I'll let the engineers know. Yeah, that's great feedback. I actually
yeah,
did the same thing. I was like, if you blinked, you'd miss the sign.
yeah, it's
Okay.
awesome. Those roundabouts are rad.
And I was just going to give ours a little praise too. The neighbors themselves have all, really loved the neighbor way. The only complaints I hear are the people that are complaining that they sped down it too quickly and hit the speed bumps going too fast, which is literally the entire point of the neighbor way. So I think it's doing exactly what it's intended to do, to slow cars down, to make it a little bit more comfortable. I know in the south side, it's like 2 blocks off of East Carson. So people, instead of hitting every light on East Carson, they go 2 blocks on either side and race down the neighborhood. And that was exactly our concern. So it's done really well. If you are bringing up signage, my only complaint is that the signs were all installed directly behind trees, and it's kind of silly. And we've brought this up, but they haven't moved at all. So
Gotcha.
maybe watch where your signage is placed in other neighborhoods if you can catch it before they put them up. But
Good to know. Yeah.
About the South Side neighborway, I actually found it a pleasure. I thought the signs were pretty good. The sharrows were really good. Every like 50 feet, you look down the road. I thought they should always be that way. Get from the 10th Street Bridge all the way to Hot Meadow, you just go along there. I thought it was very well done. And the signs are smallish, but they're very visible. There were some signs, I think, the hump signs, and I actually reported them to 311. I don't know what's happened with them. Report that there's a lot of trees and different things in front of them. So anyway, I thought it was excellent.
Great. Andrew?
A list somewhere of where these are. I would like to go take a ride and check them out because I'm not really sure what a neighborway actually is. I would like, is there any that are like a good showcase that would be a good demonstration of what a neighborway provides a neighborhood?
Yeah, so they're all kind of a little bit different. So like they're all getting slightly different infrastructure put in, but like the South Side one is completed. So that might be like the best one to go look at right now. And then on North Euclid in Highland Park, it starts at East Liberty Boulevard. Actually, a little bit before that at the two-way Penn Circle, and it goes up to Highland Park itself, like the actual park on North Euclid. And those two, I would say, are probably, because they're doing a pilot right now, so they have like mock-up roundabouts to experience, so you can kind of see like 2 different styles of a neighborway.
Okay, what is the one in Southside? What street is it on?
Coral, or what street is that, Liz?
on Muriel and Sydney underneath Birmingham Bridge. If I may give a shameless plug, and I'll ask Zach if he wants to add to this, but we're throwing a Neighborway party soon. And if you ride the Neighborway and take a few selfies, or you could walk it, or you could even drive it and get out of your car. We don't care, just take the Neighborway and take a few selfies. You might win a prize.
Right.
What day, Liz? When? When is that going to be?
When?
I think the first 2 weeks in October, but I'll share the invitation with Anna and she can send it out to this group. And
Great.
there's a few gift certificates you can win and ride the Neighborway. And
Nice. It's fun. There's also sort of a list of all of these neighborways on the Move Forward site. So if you go to the Move Forward site and then under current projects, there is a list of all of the current projects. And since most of them, except for the South Side, are all current projects with DOMI, they're all listed there too. So you can see the exact ones there. Kelsey, were you going to say something? You're unmuted, or Bruce?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that there's the list of them if you just follow the link on Anna's the agenda, and then go to current projects and then just search for Neighborway. And then there's the project fact sheets and everything. I'd say the Lawrenceville one is it's not completely done, but it's looking good. The signs are low. So if there's cars parked or like larger vehicles, signs get a little blocked, but the paint's down, which is nice. And there's still technically, until it cuts through Spirit, next to Spirit for 51st Street, it won't be complete. But we haven't really, Better Streets, Lawrenceville hasn't really heard any complaints from neighbors. They might be complaining elsewhere, but we haven't heard anything, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Bruce?
Yeah, as far as signage goes, one of the main goals of the Neighborway is to provide an alternative parallel slow street to a crazy arterial, right? So for Lawrenceville, the slow street is parallel to Butler. For Bloomfield, it's parallel to Penn. For Southside, it's parallel to Carson. So what we've been asking for Domi is to provide signage on those crazy streets to tell them that there is a slower street a block away. So should there be signage on Carson? Should there be signage on Highland to let them know that there is one street that's slower a block away? That might be something that the very neighborhood specific neighborhood pedestrian and bike committees can help advocate and remind Domi that it is about signage on the Neighborway, but it's also about signage a block or two away from the Neighborway to let people know that there is a slower street that you can use and relax and hang out and not hang out, but use without being stressed out from vehicular traffic.
Mm-hmm. Talking about these Neighborways, there will move forward, the consortium of people are going to be printing yard signs that just talk about move forward in general, but we are going to be looking for about 150 yards for these move forward generic signs to live on. So if you are in support of move forward in general, or if you have a yard that would be willing to have one of these yard signs, I'll be sending an email out pretty soon whenever they become available, and we will be looking for volunteers to help distribute them probably, but that whole process just hasn't been put in place yet, but I will let you know whenever that happens. And you do not have to live on a direct project route or anything. It's just in general to support move forward and to just make it seem more visible to people. Since COVID, we haven't been able to do as much on the ground and face-to-face outreach. And so this is one way that we're hoping to be able to bring a little bit more awareness to this project while being socially distanced. So a lot of things like door knocking, doing public meetings in person, going to farmers markets, a lot of that stuff has had to be put on hold, which we were originally trying to do just because of COVID. So once yard signs are available, if you are so inclined to put one in your yard or tape it to your bike or something, just let me know and I will figure out how to get it to you. Or if you are willing to volunteer to do that, there'll be a link coming soon. The next thing I wanted to talk about, though, which is really important, and I think you all are experts on it and will have expert advice, is talking about engagement. So this is obviously a huge area that the city has struggled on and struggled with. Ever since I've moved to the city, I've noticed that they have lacked strong public engagement. And I'm sure you've all noticed it too, and I've heard you all talk about it, so I know no one's a stranger to how the city functions or doesn't function. I wanted to bring to everybody's attention this new engagement site that they made. It is called BikePGH. I will drop a link to it in the chat, but it is a new platform that will hopefully, sorry, I couldn't find the chat box, that will hopefully bring more awareness and involvement, especially during COVID, in an online platform. Obviously, you do have to have access to the internet in order to see this, so it's not entirely accessible to everybody. But as far as having a more friendly engagement tool online, I think that this is something that is good. Move Forward is on there. If you like scroll to the bottom, you'll see Move Forward, or you can click on it and like go through all the different projects. There are like different timelines set up in it. There's more information about each project, like who you can contact for it. So there's actually putting a face to the project. And I think it's a little bit more user friendly, but as you peruse it in your own time or whatever, just let me know if you have any feedback or anything on it. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the public engagement process that the city has been doing around Move Forward. And I really wanted, after I explain it a little bit, I want to hear your feedback and also brainstorm with everybody how bike ped groups can really be involved in making sure that the public engagement process between, you know, Bike Pittsburgh and you all, and then your neighborhoods, or between the city, you all, and the neighborhoods, or between, you know, Move Forward in general, you all, and the neighborhoods, like how it can be most effective. Because right now, I think there has been some miscommunication. But I wanted to let you know that people at Move Forward, myself, Cassandra, who is the new Bike Ped coordinator, Ricardo, we all sat down with the public, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name, the city's public works department, who does the public engagement. And we went through a training that showed us how public projects have like different levels of expectation that can be associated with the public engagement side of things. And so it's the city's job to set expectations up front on how to engage with the public. And so right now, what the city has usually been doing is showing things to the public, and then it seems like you can give feedback on things, but really everybody feels like everything's already set in stone as far as like designs are concerned, and your feedback is kind of just laying on deaf ears, and you don't really have that much room to negotiate design. They send it to you too late. Nobody hears about it soon enough. You know, those are a bunch of things that I constantly hear from you all, from community groups, you know, from just different stakeholders who are out in the public. And so through this training, the city who put together this public engagement toolkit, which I'll link to in the notes, they really went through and showed us that in order to have better trust between like us, meaning like Move Forward and the project team, like, and then the residents, is asking for the appropriate level of engagement. So right now what's happening is that the public is asked kind of like what I just said, like for all this input, and then you see very little change to a design, or it feels like your input isn't going anywhere. And so what they're saying is to ask residents for a more appropriate level of expertise that they have. And so like, instead of asking them to be the engineers and designers, which should be left to the experts and the engineers and designers, asking residents to give feedback on things that are more appropriate to their level of expertise. So obviously you are all experts in your neighborhood. And so asking for neighborhood level specific things like, you know, like benches, bus stops, you know, different things like that that are more in the public realm that you are all experts on, versus like engineering and knowing design standards, which residents aren't experts on, and setting those expectations sooner and more upfront will hopefully give a more transparent and better execution of projects from the public standpoint working with the city. So I just wanted to hear what people thought about how public engagement is going right now, what we can do better, and just kind of open it up for a discussion for a couple of minutes here. Bruce.
Well, I guess I think this is really important because I think all of us here understand how important the livability and the accessibility of our cities, which is why we're taking time out of a Wednesday night to be here on the Zoom, right? So thanks for coming. So I think that this is really important. I think that just generally speaking, like using the word expertise is never like a good word to use with residents or neighbors, just because expertise portrays like that there are people who know better than you, right? And I think that whenever we use the word expertise, we're using it very, very specifically to being like, oh, this engineering, drainage, stormwater thing really requires expertise. So we're using it very specifically. When it comes to the neighbor way, though, we've found that it really isn't about the expertise that residents have or don't have, because some people do actually work in engineering or not, is that it's really about how people live their lives, or how they think that other people around them live their lives, right? So it's really about less about telling people that they have a input about benches and about trees, but more about like, how can your lived experience and how can your insight into how you have experience the roads around you, how does that affect the eventual betterment and improvement of that, right? So for us in Bloomfield, at least, it really is more about, sorry if I'm rambling, but please stop me. But really, it's more about like, it's not saying that we have all the answers, rather tell us what the issues are. And that then the city will take your issues and figure out a way to address those issues. So for example, if an issue is about speeding, the obvious solution would be traffic calming. But we don't want to tell them what the traffic calming is going to be, because we don't know. Like the state might not define that you're allowed to have speed humps on this certain street legally. The city doesn't have money for that, whatever. So it's really about the issue, and then the people at the city or Bike Pittsburgh can address the issues with the appropriate level of traffic calming or appropriate level of infrastructure. So like, I feel like maybe it might be more appropriate to engage the Move Forward movement or Move Forward campaign with more of a issues approach, rather than this is what we think will solve it. What is your thoughts on this bench? You know, like, so it's more about like maybe engaging people with like, what do you think is the issues? Because all of us, I think, will have different solutions. So maybe just start lower and be like, what is the issue? And then whoever it is can figure out the solution to it. If we did that, then I think it might actually help a lot of the engagement or the pushback we're experiencing with Move Forward, which that people are like, I don't think this is appropriate. Like, that's crazy. Well, you know, we were told that there was crash data from this intersection. We were told that there's speeding on this intersection, whatever. So maybe that stuff needs to be put forward first.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I hear what you're saying. And I think the issues approach would, in this case, work for like down the road for bike ped projects. I think the biggest issue with the Move Forward is that it's supposed to be a rapid implementation. And so in theory, there isn't enough time to do this much engagement. And I think that that is the biggest struggle that the group is facing. But I don't see why we couldn't incorporate this more. I think that that was like their thinking behind presenting designs and then asking for feedback on designs versus like hearing the issue, then designing something.
No, I totally get that. And I don't envy your job at all, because that's really hard. So good luck, Hannah. But at the same time, I think there is an appropriate way to approach this, where you say is, we've heard, because you can look at 311, you can look at whatever, we've heard that there was speeding on the street
Yeah.
And we think that an appropriate way, because we have the money, all of a sudden we have all this money, we have the will of the city, we have the will of People for Bikes. This is one potential solution. What do you all think? Right? And I feel like that hasn't been necessarily the narrative that was presented to a lot of these neighborways that have been getting pushback. It was more of a top-down, heavy-handed approach. So if it's more of a like, we heard this due to this data, we heard this from crash data. If that was presented at the very beginning, I feel like our jobs as bike and pedestrian committees would be so much easier, because we'd be like, there's this data. Like, are you gonna fight data? You can't fight data, right? So like, maybe if that was presented early on, that might help these kind of go with issue-based solutions.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Does anybody else have ideas or comments about this?
And I have a little bit of a story to tell.
Yeah, go for it. Hi, Jerry.
At our most recent COVID off-site meeting on the north side, Bobby Wilson showed up, and so did Cassandra. And this is more about Bobby Wilson than it is about Cassandra. Bobby Wilson is our freshman council person for the north side. And he talked about 2 projects that should have involved BikePed, and for some reason didn't. He was called into sessions with Public Works and engineering, and of course he's in council, and he knew there were projects planned for Brighton Road and for Federal North intersection that would affect bikes and particularly peds at Federal North. And there was no mention of the BikePed group. And so he stood up and waved his hand and said, hey, you know what? Northside Leadership Conference has an advisory committee, a BikePed group. Why aren't you talking to them? Well, they weren't. And apparently weren't even thinking about it. So thanks to Bobby, we were notified, we were invited to the sessions, and otherwise it would not have happened.
So is what you're saying is like making sure that you have a relationship with your council person so that they can bring you in for these important meetings.
Yeah, I think you have to, have an insider who is advocating for you. Apparently they don't know about us, can't be bothered with us, don't want to. I don't know. But, for you know well that for a couple of years we were trying to get people from the city to come and talk to us directly,
right,
about what was or was not happening on the north side, and nothing would happen.
I would also commend your group too for having, when the elections were coming up for city council, you held that debate, which made him familiar with your group before he was even elected, and he committed at that time to work on BikePed projects. So I think that was also a really good strategy.
He did, and he's the only one who showed up, even though others were invited. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that while he was doing this behind the scenes work, I was concerned that he wasn't involved. I was concerned that he wasn't advocating for us, but in fact he was. He was just doing it quietly, and then the results came to forth.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have comments? This also, obviously is not the last time you can tell me what feedback or anything you have. Bruce?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, was that it would be great if as what Jerry said, I want to piggyback on what Jerry says. And hi, Jerry, long time no see. And Donna, is that if there's a way to include BikePed committees in these early discussions, that would be great. I know that during some of our neighborway meetings, Domi would present the design that we thought we knew, but all of a sudden Domi would be like, oh, but there is going to be a 2-way street here. And all of a sudden we're like, wait, what? Like, we didn't know. Shouldn't we have known? Like, we would have better advocated for you or been able to better respond. And so if there's a way to, what Jerry was saying, like actually involve these BikePed groups that you, Anna, and Bike Pittsburgh have done so much work to establish and create, and we're all here tonight because of that effort, we should be part of that move forward Pittsburgh effort as advocates. Like, we can be that person or that group between Domi and the city and these and residents, right? We can be that middle person. How do we better utilize the passion that's here tonight on this meeting?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways, which I'll encourage you all to do, is what happened with the North Side, is to invite Cassandra to your monthly meetings. Like, even if you haven't been meeting, you know, like, call a meeting and make sure it's at a time that Cassandra can come, because she told me that she wants to hear from all of you. So I have slowly been inviting her to different meetings, you know, with different groups. But if, you know, if she's not available at your monthly meeting time, maybe having like a different, like an extra meeting, or moving your monthly meeting to when she is available, because she is going to be your point of contact. She's the new Kristen Saunders, you know, at the city. She is the new bike and pedestrian coordinator. She should be the guest speaker at December's meeting. But in the meantime, you know, why wait? Just introduce yourself early, and if you email me, I will email you her email address and get you all connected. But she is well aware that all these groups exist, and I've shared, you know, like, how to get in touch with you all. But she is very busy onboarding with the city, but does want to carve out time to meet all of you and hear directly from you all about your concerns, and even go on a bike ride. She is very open to doing like on the ground kind of interventions and like getting to know the city, because she's coming from Wisconsin. So invite her out, go for a walk. I don't know, do something. But she is definitely probably your person at the city that you'll need to talk to. If nobody else has anything, I'm going to try to move on here quickly. Slow streets. So I wanted to talk about slow streets. Basically, I don't have any updates. I've asked for an update, but I haven't gotten one. But if you look at the link that I provided in the agenda, it takes you to the COVID-19 landing page for the city, and there's now an updated list of streets that have gotten approval to become a slow street, which is new. So if you check there, you might be able to find out about your streets and updates and see where these slow streets are in your neighborhood. The next thing I want to talk about, yeah,
something there. So we know at least Better Streets knows at least a few streets in Lawrenceville that were requested for slow streets.
Mm-hmm.
And then I haven't really heard anything, but then all of a sudden those like A-frame signs appeared on one street where we had asked for it, but to our knowledge hadn't contacted the sponsor for the street. And then one appeared on another street, but several blocks down and not in a place that made sense. It was like in the middle of a sidewalk on Butler. Maybe someone moved it. So it hasn't really been successful so far in Lawrenceville, but we're hopeful. But I wanted to see if anyone, for the ones that do exist, have people seen a difference and seen people slowing down? Because like we'll push for it in Lawrenceville, but if we're not really seeing them be successful, then I don't know. It's kind of we don't want to waste our kind of time doing it, to be blunt.
Does anybody live on or near one? Nope.
And I don't think that the website has been updated recently because the Lawrenceville ones aren't on there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's changed much in the last few weeks.
I mean, not to be a downer, but I've noticed barely anything, like just walking around the neighborhood and like even driving past the streets that have them. It looks like the A-frames, and maybe this is what you noticed on Butler, they're like so far to the side that they're like, you almost don't even see them. So I think that they're helpful on a very like, on a literal pedestrian level. Like if you're walking through, they make a difference because you feel like there's a sign up. But if you're driving past, because they're not really blocking any like way that you're driving on, they didn't seem to make that big of a difference. But there is a huge, maybe almost a mile worth in Brookline, and they interviewed people out there who said that they were tremendously helpful and they really liked them. So I think it might just be you know, where they are and like who lives in what neighborhood and stuff like that. So I don't know. Sorry, I don't have more of an answer. The next thing I wanted to just quickly bring up again are these advocacy workshops. I'm not sure if people were aware that they were happening, but there are a bunch of advocacy workshops that I have been doing once a month, and the next one is going to be on coalition building, and you do have to register for them ahead of time, just so if nobody registers, then I might not hold it, you know, but we've pretty much had a couple of people each time. They've been pretty small groups, so it's been really conversational. But we really dive into, if you went to the training last year, it breaks down the training pretty much into like 1 hour digestible sessions of the toolkit that we have. And it really dives deep into all these different aspects of advocacy and like what is advocacy. After they're done, I am uploading the videos to our website. So if you missed them, you can still view them there. But I just wanted to bring them to everybody's attention. They'll still be September, October, and November. So there's 3 left. But yeah, and I'm happy to do more next year. We'll see, you know, like what we're able to do with COVID and everything. But as a response to COVID, instead of doing an in-person workshop like we did last year, we've just moved all of these trainings virtually into more digestible 1 hour sessions, because the 8-hour training day was really long. It was really fun, but it was intense. So yeah, so please show up. I would love to see you there. Liz.
So you had taken time in our group to like start the advocacy workshop through a specific project. Is that still kind of an opportunity? Because I'm not sure we're at exactly where the group might be at with, I'm not sure what you just mentioned, coalition building, for example. Or if you're really trying to switch to those and we should really push those. And I'm sorry, I didn't see those. So,
totally fine. Either or, like I am definitely here to walk everybody, you know, everyone and anyone through a project, using that workbook and just like helping to really think through it. Sometimes I think it might be better to do it with your own bike ped group because it can be hyper local and hyper specific. I will say these workshops are more general so that they can be applied to people who live in the city, who don't live in the city. You know, like a large group, a small group, if you're just getting started, if you're already established, you know, they kind of are more general, but I'm always more than happy to, you know, use my time attending your monthly meetings to do more of like a deep dive into like that deep planning for a campaign and thinking through that process. So whatever works for you, I'm happy to do whatever. Yeah, so moving on, parking day. I might call on Bruce to actually talk about this, but generally speaking, parking day is where you turn one parking space into something else other than a parking spot to show that a parking space could be better utilized for something other than for a car.
Oh my gosh, so I actually can't see anyone, but show of hands, who's gonna do parking day in 2 Fridays from now? Show of hands, anyone? No, yeah, probably not. So when I talk about parking day, I'm talking about like just a Facebook page where we document people in the city doing parking day. There is no, at the moment, there is no citywide effort. There was back in the day, but there is really no volunteers for that. So this year, I was thinking, when I say I mean just me and a Facebook page, are thinking about just like highlighting ways that the city is using that extra curb space or parking spaces to create safer and more vitally vibrant places during COVID-19, during the pandemic. So that might be like the minimum that we do this year, but I just wanted to kind of get everyone's feelings. Like, do any of you all have a specific either like a business district or business that you would like to focus on to do a parking day demonstration, which would be a 1-day parking space along the curb demonstration of how to use the space. I think during a pandemic and COVID-19 might be wise to limit the amount of people that like go into a parking space. At the same time, I'm just putting this out there that if any of you all or your businesses that you work with or organizations that you work with have ideas, let me know. We can figure it out. Otherwise, we might just highlight some of the city sanctioned parking space, restaurant kind of outdoor seating that's going on as a way to rethink the way our curbs are used in the city. Unless anyone here, speak up. If anyone here knows of any parking day efforts going on in your neighborhood, let us know.
Thanks, Bruce. Does anybody have questions about parking day or like what is feasible or anything like that? It can definitely be as low tech or as involved as you want. Sometimes people just use chalk to write something in a parking space and call it a day, and other people build elaborate structures and put them on a parking spot and turn it into a beach zone or a mini golf. So you can really do whatever you want, but if you are doing it, just let Bruce know so he can add it to the Facebook page. And with that, I am done talking and I am going to turn things over to Kelsey. Thank you so much, Kelsey. And like always, email me with any questions or feedback that you have. Take it away.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
And you don't see my notes? Just
right. Just the slide. Yep.
All right. Well, so thank you. I'm hopefully not a totally new face to a lot of people. I've been coming to these meetings for a while, both as the ED of Friends of the Riverfront, but even before that as the representative from Better Streets Lawrenceville. And I started at Friends in January, but I still appreciate that Anna said that I'm brand new because I still feel like I'm brand new. There's a lot to learn. We're a very, an older organization, so there's a lot of kind of institutional knowledge that I've been absorbing over the last 6 months. So still learning. But I did want to just take an opportunity to talk about what Friends does. I think that people have a general kind of understanding of Friends' existence, but maybe not sure exactly what we do. That's one of the things that we're going to be hopefully addressing, and I'll talk about some of the my priorities for the near future. But I just want to try to go over a little bit of what we do as an organization, recognizing that some people may know much more than others. So I'm going to try to hit a balance of giving you new information, but not boring you to death with every detail. So I just wanted to put up the staff. We have 4 staff members right now, and this is our contact information. I'm going to talk about the programs more specifically, but if you have questions, things that come up, I'm going to talk about our coming to meetings and things like that. You should always feel free to reach out to us. I will put the information up again at the end so you have our contact info. We are a 30-year-old organization. We've changed missions slightly, but generally it's always been focused on the trail, both the Three Rivers Heritage Trail and the Three Rivers Water Trail. Our geographic focus has really changed over the last 30 years. It started just kind of with one stretch of riverfront on the south side, and then up the North Shore. We've expanded that. We focus on all of Allegheny County with the vision of seeing riverfront trails on both sides of all 3 rivers, and riverfront trails that are connected to communities too, because if people can't get to the riverfront trail, then that's not an effective trail. So we will expand our focus to look at community connections as well. So I think most people are familiar with the Three Rivers Heritage Trail. I would hope so. You may know it as its many different section names, but this is most of the Three Rivers Heritage Trail. There are pieces now that are up the Allegheny River that are disconnected, but we're working on connecting them. You may have just seen that we helped Brackenridge get about $250,000 in TASA funds to build out their trail in the next couple years. So really working heavily in that area, and I'll talk about that more in just a minute. So, and I just wanted to also talk about how the trail is used for many different purposes. These numbers came from an economic impact study that was done in 2014. So they've changed, and now we have different user types and more micromobility devices on the trail, and I've seen a lot of skateboards on the trail. So these numbers are a little bit old, but just kind of highlight that there's a lot of different types of users, and people are out there for a lot of different purposes, for transportation, for recreation and fitness, just to kind of relax, recharge, reset. A lot of people watching birds and observing nature. So we try to keep all of these types of users in mind when we're making decisions about our programs. So we have two big buckets of programs. One is the trail development bucket, and one is the stewardship bucket. So our trail development program, we provide technical assistance and project management mainly for municipalities right now, but we also do it sometimes for private developers as well. But we help with community input, we help with feasibility studies and land acquisition, design, construction, developing maintenance plans. Friends is a land trust, so we will often take, we do take property when it becomes available and there's an opportunity to develop trail. So we did that with Etna Riverfront Park, we did that with Aspinwall. So we will take it for the time being until kind of certain factors are in place, and then we will, we don't like to hold on to it for a while. We really want it to be owned by the municipality generally, so that it's a public property. We do hold on to easements from certain private landowners so that we can assure that the trail will be there for the long term. We directly help with fundraising. Both we provide technical assistance for municipalities to raise funds, and then we leverage private dollars to support trail building projects. We also develop the amenities like benches and fix-it stations and lots of other things too, hopefully more in the future. We really would like to see a lot more amenities along the trail. We install the maps and some of the signs, the interpretive signs. We work with municipalities to install rule signs, directional signage. A lot of advocacy and policy too, and especially important to me. And we're going to probably increase that in the near future. But for example, recently there was funding at stake with the Keystone Fund at the state level, which provides a lot of trail building funding. And there was legislation introduced to potentially change how that fund is funded. And so we took a public stance on that and really reached out to lawmakers to make sure that there's long-term funding for trail projects. And then we do impact studies, so economic impact studies primarily, but we're looking at health studies to really to show the value of trails. We just finished a small business baseline study for the Allegheny River corridor, so we have a kind of a pre-trail impact study so that we can keep running that study as the trail is developed, and so we can really measure the economic impact that the trail has. So there's a copy of that actually on our website, and we'll be posting about it on social media soon. So this is just a sample of the projects that we're working on, but these are the big ones. So this is the Three Rivers Heritage Trail extension from Millvale to Freeport. There's 17 municipalities in between them, and we're working with all of them to provide technical assistance because they're small municipalities and they can't do trail building on their own really. And so many have told us like these projects would not happen if you weren't providing technical assistance. So that's a really big part of what we're doing, where we're spending our resources. We're also working in the Turtle Creek Valley to connect the Gap and the Westmoreland Heritage Trail, working on an extension from the south side to the Montour Trail and then onto Beaver. filling trail gaps. So you probably heard about the Strip District and our assistance for the city to rail bank about a mile of abandoned track, which is the picture here. And so that will extend the Strip District Trail much further towards Lawrenceville. Not complete connection yet, but a really amazing opportunity to extend the trail through the Strip District. And then we provide assistance on maintenance as well. So we're working with the city on many of the trail problems that I'm sure a lot of you know of, Duck Hollow, Chateau, and the ponding at Eagle Lake between Southside and Homestead. So, and we really focus our efforts and prioritize based on regional trail networks. So that's where we always want to make sure that we're building trails that connect into regional networks. And so the Millville to Freeport is part of the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail. So we're very active in that alliance of trails that are working to connect. And then that's part of the Industrial Heartland Coalition, which will lead to many more trails in the region. And then the newest one is the Great American Rail Trail, which the connection between the South Side and Montour Trail is essential for that long distance trail as well. So the other big bucket is trail stewardship. So we assist property owners and municipalities with maintenance since we don't own the trail, but we do license with the municipalities to provide maintenance. That includes litter and invasive species and cutting back the overgrowth, removing kind of invasives, planting lots of trees, caring for those trees and other native plants, and some graffiti removal as well. This was an especially difficult year. The city had to really pull back on a lot of their maintenance along the trail due to capacity issues. We also had to pull back from the trail too because we had to cancel so many of our volunteer events, which was a real shame. We relied heavily on stewards to do some of that work and just kind of just getting at least the foliage cut back. But now that we have more knowledge of COVID and we have protective equipment, we are ramping up our stewardship program in the fall, and we're going to have a lot more small volunteer events along the trail to address some of the backlog of issues. So that's what we do a lot of is those events. And then we have stewards who adopt sections of the trail and are really our eyes and ears on the trail, let us know when there are problems, cut back encroaching plants, and also removing graffiti and things like that. We have some people on the phone. Jerry and Donna, of course, are some very dedicated trail stewards on the North Shore. We also work with property owners to minimize trail disruptions and identify detours around construction. So we meet regularly with PennDOT and utility providers when they need to interrupt, when they have to do work on the trail. Oh, sorry. And then we communicate a lot of the trail disruptions as much as possible. We also did all the interpretive signs, and we do some art installations and trail programming. Last year we did Trails to Wellness, which was highlighting the trail's role in mental and physical health. And so we invited people to the trail for different types of activities, which was really nice. We had to put that on pause this year because it happens in May, which was kind of the height of everything going on, but planning to bring that back next year. I'm having trouble skipping. Oh, there we go. Okay. I know this is a bike ped committee, but I just want to mention meeting, but I just wanted to mention that we're also the water trail managers. So the Three Rivers Water Trail is the series of 26 boat launches and landings in Allegheny County. And we are currently looking at adding additional landings, adding more racks and signage, revising our maps, the current maps available on the website, and just more promotion and programming of that amenity, because it's a really cool thing that we have that people don't really know about, that you can travel the rivers going from landing to landing and really see a very different part of Pittsburgh from the river. So looking forward, so when I started, I did what a lot of EDs do is I listened. I had a lot of meetings with stakeholders, with trail users, as many as I could before all this happened, and then trying to do a lot of them by video and just really listening to what people thought about Friends, what they thought our strengths and our weaknesses were, where we could be more effective, and kind of distilling that and over time, and really coming up with my priorities and commitments. The organization is going through the beginning stages of another strategic plan. So we started that in the fall, and we'll have more of a formal strategic plan coming. But this is what my takeaways from a lot of those conversations and where I think that we should be committing our time and resources. And so, there we go. So first, I just wanted I first just learned about the programs and really doing a deep dive into the programs that we have and making sure that we were using resources effectively and efficiently. And we've been doing the same work for 30 years. The need still exists, but the tools and the resources look different than they did 30 years ago. So I want to make sure that we're reviewing and revising our programs to take advantage of new opportunities. So could be technology or just revising systems, and looking at new partnerships that make what we do more impactful. So taking advantage of new opportunities has been my kind of mantra over the last 6 months while this pandemic has been happening. And there's been a lot of times where it's very disheartening to see there's more litter on the trail's undergoing more stress because of the amount of people on it. There's overcrowding in areas, and that can be really frustrating and disheartening, but I also see it as a huge opportunity for us right now. So many people are enjoying the trails, they're appreciating them. I've seen people who've never been on a trail before just have no idea that they existed and now think that they're the best thing ever. And so it's an opportunity to take that enthusiasm and turn it into further investment into trails. And so we want to make sure that the trails are on the top of the list for further investment. And that includes, we've been gathering lists of trail projects for potential stimulus money, and really advocating for it at all different levels, to make sure that trails are kind of one of the things that we are investing in as we look to the future and kind of post-COVID. So being a strong advocate for the trails and really knowing the trails in and out and being the resource that people come to when they have anything trail related. And really advocating for the closure of trail gaps and extensions, and elevating maintenance as a big part of that too. Friends was focused on a long time on trail development and getting more trail out there, but as we know, the trail is aging, and it's been because some sections have been there for a long time. And there needs to be continuous investment in trails to ensure that they're safe and accessible and usable for the future. People like to fund new trail, they don't really like to fund maintenance. And so that's a big part of what we'll be focusing on going forward. Clicking to striving for a trail and organization that is diverse and inclusive. And so we're reviewing all of our programs to make sure that our resources are meeting those goals. And so we're looking at who we partner with for stewardship events, what schools are we partnering with, what community-based organizations, and really thinking about how to make those events and experiences accessible for a wider range of partners in Pittsburgh, in the region. How we do our outreach events, how do we decide which outreach events we do and which ones we aren't able to do, who we provide technical assistance to. If we do focus on under-resourced municipalities as who we should be focusing our energies on, and how do we make sure that that's a part of the rubric of how we decide how these projects, which projects we get involved in. And then expanding beyond just the trail itself on the riverfront, but looking at those community connections as well, and making sure that people have access to the trails. Sharing information was a big thing that I heard over and over again, is that we need to be better at sharing information with people. And so we plan on doing regular updates on our activities on the website. We rehauled our website last year, but it wasn't quite complete. And so we're doing another deep dive into it this year to put up more information about the trail development projects and their status, where we've been doing a lot more on social media. So if that's a really good place to find out information, is just to follow us on social media platforms, because we've been putting out a lot more and trying very hard to do that with limited capacity. So that's how we're getting things out so far. But also attending community meetings. So we go to a lot of meetings, and we're a small staff, but we do really want to make it to more meetings. So if you're having meetings that affect the trail, or the trail's a part of the agenda, please reach out and let us know, and we'll really try to make it. It's easier for us now when it's virtual. But please do let us know and invite us to those meetings. We also have a lot more coverage than people realize. A lot of our stewards are in their community bike ped committees, and so we get that information back in other ways. A lot of our board members are also, one of the which is on here. So we get information back in other ways, even if the staff themselves are not able to make it to everything. And then looking beyond the trail surface. So really looking at the riparian buffer in general, and the trail as a means for restoration and conservation of the riparian buffer. Also looking at air and water quality that affects recreation and trail use. It's not very fun to go out on the water trail if there's all these outflows and you're paddling in raw sewage. Also not very fun to be on the trail during high pollution days and when it's uncomfortable and unsafe for people to be exercising. So looking at that is a very critical part of the trail user experience. And then further supporting economic development. So looking at how do we support businesses that are trail businesses? So as we extend trails up the Allegheny Valley, for example, how do we make sure that the towns there are able to take advantage of the economic benefits that trails bring? And so that can mean doing outreach with them, providing some assistance. We're looking at more programs and that would make sure that we're making that connection between the trail and economic development. So there's lots of ways that people get involved with Friends, and so I'm going to talk about them briefly. Have to do that with my pitch. So I talked about trail stewards who adopt sections of the trail. We also have trail ambassadors who, the kind of idea behind that is that there are people on the trail that have maps and can answer questions, can guide people. And so we are looking for trail ambassadors. We have lots of different types of work days. We also take office volunteers and event volunteers. We rely on pro bono engineering and legal services a lot. And then some of the low touch, less involved ways to help is 311 trail issues, and contact us when you see them. If you mark something as a trail on 311, we generally will see it. So we can either address it ourselves if we can, or we can elevate it with the property owner and or municipality so that they can address the issue. But it's hard for us to do that if we don't know about it. So just 311 or let us know. And then like and share trail alerts and social media content. I know that sounds silly, but so we are trying to put out more notices about trail alerts so that people know. But if people don't like them or engage with them, then the algorithms don't work. And so the trail alerts don't get spread out widely because if a trail's closed for some reason, like a tree's down, no one really likes that. So they don't want to like the post. So just engage with it in some other way. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for that heads up. Anything like that will help really bump those trail alerts up so that people will see them. We do put them on the website, but I know that's not always the first place that people go to look for trail updates, but people are on social media all the time. And then you can always become a member. Our donation button is very obvious on the website. So thank you very much. I tried to go quickly, happy to answer questions. And again, here's all of our contact information if you have specific questions.
Thank you. That was really, really informative, and I actually learned new stuff too. So I appreciate that. We did have 2 questions in the chat, but if people want to just unmute themselves and ask them, we don't need to make it that formal. But I don't know if Mark, if you want to ask your question, and then Chaz can ask yours, and then Liz. Mark, you're muted. There you go.
How's that?
Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The question is from West Pittsburgh standpoint. You mentioned from the south side to the Montour Trail, but how do you get from the south side to the Montour Trail without going through our section of the city?
Good question. So that section is still very much in the feasibility study stage and figuring it out. I know there have been a couple of feasibility studies that have been done over the years, and it's about just reconnecting with everyone and kind of getting a lay of the land. We've been working with Rails to Trails Conservancy to revisit some of the previous feasibility studies and figuring out kind of where we are right now and what kind of the state of land ownership is on that section. But there's not an obvious way right now. But I can also happily connect you with Courtney Marinchvita, who's our trail development director, and she has been working with Rails to Trails.
We've got the trolley trail program that sort of starts from Crafton Boulevard and then ends up in the West End, but it goes nowhere else because we can't connect to any of the other trails without being on Carson Street or crossing over the West End Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and so we did, I know we provided a little bit of feedback on that with Domi, at least just on the design of the trolley trail, but haven't looked at connections from the trolley trail to the river, but happy to do that. And I can definitely put you in touch with Courtney.
Mark?
Yes?
Oh, this is Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
This is not the answer you were looking for, but you can get there now. The Steel Valley Trail Council maintains on-road signage from McKeesport to Clairton, where there's a Montour Trail trailhead. It goes over the Glassport Bridge. It's not real high traffic. It's fairly easy to follow. But then you've got 47 miles of Montour Trail before you get to Coraopolis. So it's a lot quicker the way you're thinking of going.
Well, no, we're in the West End, and the Montour Trail for us is sort of like over the next hill. And there isn't any good connection for West End, Sheridan, Elliott, Crafton Heights people to get anywhere because we're sort of stuck with Carson Street and the West End Bridge and really no way to get any further west directly at this point. So McKeesport is really way out of the way for us.
I know, and I'm really pulling for you. I hope you get that connection.
Thanks, Jerry.
May I suggest one connection? I wish I had more displays for it, but talking about the trolley trail coming down, where it would be a, bike dedicated trail, comes into Woodville Avenue down around where the Old Stone Tavern is. So I've been advocating to use the old, train line between Route 51 and the West End, number one, as a way to make it safe and viable for tourists. Because we talked about people who live out here and commute, but we really haven't talked about the economic vitality and the boom to business that this could actually create if it were safe. But to add to that, one connector at least could be, as we mentioned before, and I'm sorry I didn't reach out to Nikki Davis and Lisa from the Seldom Seen group, is that, you know, there's still that this old train line that goes right into the West End Circle also goes over the Parkway West and goes into Seldom Seen, which in itself is a beautiful place for people to go after work, you know. And I've heard that they were even offered the Wabash Tunnel. So if the Wabash Tunnel was converted to a bike tunnel going to Seldom Seen and then had a safety line over the Parkway West and along busy streets, you know, you've got something that wouldn't just make sense. It would be something to be wonderful. It would be lovely. You would just feel like you were out on the Appalachian Trail. You can flush all the city out once you go to Seldom Seen. For those who have never been, you feel as soon as you walk in that tunnel, you know, where the waterfall is and everything. To me, I feel like I'm in the Laurel Highlands, and that's like that's a 30-second conversion from a cityscape. So I think we got a lot to work with. It's just going to take, and I think Teresa's more talking now to some of the groups up on the Hill. You know, she's been going to Ridgemont and some of the others. There's been a lot of pessimism in this part of town, to say the least, about, you know, there's been a lot of chatter about bike lanes are just for rich people. And she's been more online because, you know, Wayne Fontana's office has got the money, thanks to Lori Beth. You know, she got that proposal out and that got his attention. But, you know, I patiently try to explain to people, you know, I'm not young and I'm a self-sustaining artist, and bike lanes are for everybody. And every person, well, you guys know, but we're slowly trying to get the message that every person like myself who lives and chooses to live without a car cuts down on pollution, cuts down on gridlock, better health outcomes, and it's a better town to live in. But so we're slowly getting there. We've got a lot to work with, though.
Kelsey, does Friends work on trails that are not on the riverfront?
Not often. I mean, we do, it's a little bit of a lighter touch. So like we did provide some comments and resources for Domi on the trolley trail. One of the challenges of becoming or being experts is that we get tapped for a lot of different projects. And so we do generally have to prioritize the ones that are on the rivers and that are part of the regional trail system. A regional trail network that's kind of been laid out, like the Erie to Pittsburgh or industrial heartlands.
Gotcha. Chaz, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. Yeah, I think at the beginning you just, thanks for the presentation, Kelsey. You said lack of amenities, or you wanted more amenities. Certain categories or areas that you're targeting, or are you just taking stuff inbound from potential outfitters or operators on the trail?
Yeah, so on the most basic of amenities, in that we need more places to go to the bathroom and more places to get water on the trail. And I'm really trying to go for those ones right now, over anything too spectacular. And there's others that other organizations that are kind of pushing for those things. But I mean, we can't even get an answer about where the porta potties have gone on the trail. So that's kind of my big peeve at the moment. And so trying to get more information about that. And as there are more developments and more businesses coming to the trail, making sure that water is accessible so people can at least have that. But I'm happy to talk about other things too.
Did you have anything else in mind, Chaz?
Thanks. Well, it was just in the context of, I spoke with Millvale a little bit about, you know, putting a little coffee stand or that basically the old food truck park that they had a few summers ago that I think it was the summer of 2018 they activated it and didn't follow through with it. I'm sorry. 2019 they were there and didn't renew it for this year. So didn't know who was dealing with the borough of Millvale. And, you know, it would have been nice if you know, I should have known Friends of the Riverfront would have been a good ally for pitching and presenting purposes. So yeah, so we were looking for kind of coffee or just a rest stop for folks.
Yeah, I know that Millvale has even had to close their bathrooms, and it's been tough because I see it on both ends. Like the trail users are like, I really need a bathroom. There's nowhere to go. And there's at least, you think that there's a bathroom there, but Millvale has kept them closed because they had a lot of vandalism problems and they just couldn't afford to keep replacing things in the bathroom, which I totally get that too. So really needing to think about some solutions that work because it's really a shame that there's an actual bathroom on the trail and it's locked, you know, 99% of the time. I think the Millvale food truck, I think the organizer of that stopped doing it, and I don't think it was really Millvale's choice, is my understanding. But that's not from Friends. I just know that from talking.
No, you're right. Yeah, it was the restaurant group moved on.
Yeah. We're looking at we are exploring potential funding for being a little bit more hands-on with that and actually bringing businesses to the trail and supporting those types of trail businesses. Don't have the capacity to do it right now, but it's something that's definitely on our radar and we're looking into.
Liz, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. I was wondering, and I think you saw from Southside Smart Streets, we sent our capital budget request, part of which included paving the Southside Trail or portions of it. And I guess I just want to ask, I mean, from what the research that we did, we found that there's not really, you know, allotted funding for paving trails. And so they use kind of the city uses the leftover funding for stuff like that. And so what we had asked for in our capital budget request was that, you know, there's some sort of dedicated funding stream to that. And I was just kind of wondering if you guys are making any headway on that, or if we could help with that, or if, you know, there are other ways to go about that. And so I just, you know, I don't think that finding that funding stream is your responsibility necessarily, but yeah, what can we do?
Yeah, it's I mean, that's what I've noticed too. When I was putting together our budget letters for both Friends and for Better Streets, it was like, wait, there was a budget line for trail maintenance, and it's been zeroed out for the last few years. And so I don't have the kind of historical knowledge, which I've been trying to get about what happened to that. But that is our ultimate goal, is to have actual dedicated funding to trail maintenance, because you're right. It just seems like it's just the leftover of like, oh, we have a little bit of money, we'll pave. We did push for paving in our budget letter. We pushed really hard to add maintenance into the bike plan, which they did add a little bit of that in the final version. And then we've been, as part of any stimulus package, we've been working with the city to say, like, we've pulled numbers on what it would take to repave the entire system, because almost every section needs to be repaved at this point. So we're kind of trying it from all different angles, but I definitely think that having the community groups and the bike ped committees would make that a lot stronger of an argument if there was representation throughout the city saying, like, we need more investment in trail maintenance. So as we kind of get together our plan for next year, I will be in touch about that.
Okay, super. Yeah, we just want to be as helpful as possible. I mean, I know right before Friends had a downturn, we had a whole bunch of signatures on a petition to get it repaved. So that was probably 2-3 years ago. I don't know.
Okay.
But so if something like that's helpful, we can do things like that. We can, I mean, I guess petitions are harder at this point, but Maybe they're easier because they're electronic, but yeah, whatever is helpful, I think we'd really like to see. I mean, the goal was to get our trail paved, but you know, we see the bigger goal being dedicating funding for that through the future.
Yeah, and that, I mean, to have funding like that available would be just it would be a huge game changer, because right now there are major problems on the trail that there's just not money to fix. And so there's the Chateau section is in dire need of attention. And we've highlighted that over and over again to the city, and hopefully we'll see some improvement.
Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, hi. I hope this can help even with the Chateau issues and everything. As you might know, I'm an advocate for the National Historic Trail related to Lewis and Clark. I've been given an action item. Is that upside down? And really couldn't show these things, but and I'd love to give to you guys too. The National Park Service put out their 2019 annual report. This will be backwards, unfortunately for you guys, but the whole that's Superintendent Weekly at the West End Overlook. And the big news is from Pittsburgh to the Pacific. Now this gives us a national platform. And the good news is that I just found out this summer that the National Convention, the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, so that's the scholars and tribal leaders from mostly the West, because it's like a Western thing. And last year, they just found out that Pittsburgh is now in on this. So that's like the buzz going on in our community. And lo and behold, I was more than happy to wait for the convention. I knew they were going to come to the convention. They have an annual big convention once a year. And I was kind of hoping it wouldn't be for a few years so we could save the old stone tavern, which is related, get more trails. But they're coming in 2022 already for the first time, and hopefully not the last time. So this is a whole new ball game. And, you know, it's the Heinz History Center in Beaver County are organizing it. You know, I'm just kind of an advocate volunteer. I'm glad that the big guys, the big guns are organizing it, but I think, you know, Bike Pittsburgh or Friends of the Riverfront, you know, I don't know what the path, the gateway to get into the, you know, being part of the participants in the convention when it comes here in August of 2022. But I think you guys should be able to have a presentation about the infrastructure and, you know, and the challenge to it. But I can tell you, this is a free national platform. This is a convention that, just like we were saying, is going to bring economic vitality to the city with all these people coming here that are curious about us now. And that's ongoing. So there's a grant deadline at the end of this month if you'd like to get an interpretive sign for, say, Bruno's Island on Chartiers on the Chateau Trail, because we still have a space for that. Year on year, since we are now the official trailhead, it opens up a lot of more opportunities and could really focus, and especially getting a corridor going down both sides of the Ohio River, which is really a challenge. But I really feel this, you know, Lewis and Clark is big stuff. It really is.
Yeah,
it's the only National Historic Trail. Yeah, they're the only National Historic Trail that has their own unit based in Omaha, Nebraska, that does nothing but promote the trail and economic opportunities, whether it's food trucks. You could have a Lewis and Clark burrito and they will give you free advertisement. So they have programs for this stuff, you know, an art gallery, whatever. But I just want to help coordinate all these groups to get behind it. Right now, the Park Service seems to be working with me. They've asked me to distribute these things. I've been working with them for 9 years now on this project. So so far they've got their confidence in me, and I'm happy to share. And,
that's great. Thank you. Yeah. We've been talking about how to take more advantage of the Lewis and Clark Trail and keeping an eye on funding and things like that. I didn't know that the convention was coming here. That's really exciting.
New news. I was surprised. I could feel like, because it could turn out to be the first in-person convention. This summer's obviously had to be virtual. Next year is supposed to be in Missoula, Montana. The city of Missoula pulled out because they had to front like $90,000 and they weren't sure. So it might be in Idaho, but 2022 is already set for August 7th to August 10th at the Drury Plaza, where it's going to be kind of based on Grant Street. And I've written to Andy Masick. We were just appeared in an article together, but whether they'll work with me or not, you know, I'm just a private citizen, but I'll help wherever I can to connect you guys, you know, and be happy to come visit.
Thank you.
My dog's going nuts. I got to get out on a trail right now. So he needs his walk, but thank you guys so much. You're doing a great job.
Nice
Good to see everybody. Thank you.
Does anybody have any lingering questions for Kelsey? If not, oh, Bruce.
I have a question. I'm just wondering, Kelsey, what is Friends of the Riverfront's actions with being proactive with developers who are developing along the riverfront, such as in not Manchester, but in Chateau, for example? Like, are there leverage points that the Friends of the Riverfront are able to use to either force with a stick or to provide with a carrot incentives for these developers to use the trails as an asset to their development, to their investment?
Yeah, that's something that we work and we'll continue to work closely with River Life on. That's kind of a little bit more in their bucket. But we're on their design review committee and working in tandem with them to make sure that they can carve some of those, like, space out for the trail and amenities for the trail, and that there's kind of foresight and planning there. And that there's access, and they're not cutting off access to the trail either. But we're going to work closely with them on that. Unfortunately, we don't have any sticks to wield. I don't think, but maybe carrots.
I want to turn things over now to all of you to give updates from your bike ped groups. And before we do that, I really want to thank Kelsey so much for putting a presentation together and joining us, and for just taking the leadership on to be the new executive director of Friends of the Riverfront, and having that role is no easy task. So thank you so much, and thank you for listening to everybody too.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everyone.
So whoever wants to start, let's do rapid fire. There's only 20 minutes left, and if we can wrap up before 8, that'll be brownie points to us. So whoever wants to go. Nick.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Goodfellow. I'm a sustainability coordinator at the University of Pittsburgh. You may have seen in the Bike Pittsburgh newsletter today post about Bike to Campus Day. I want to give a plug to that. Myself, folks at CMU, and wonderful Anna over here, who does so much work. Thanks, Anna, for everything you do. Are organizing Bike to Campus Week, which is a virtual week of very short 30-minute sessions themed around welcoming new riders. At Pitt, we expanded our Healthy Ride program so that all students and employees can ride Healthy Ride. So far we've had 1,300 people enroll and more than 1,400 trips on Healthy Rides since mid-August, which we're really excited about. And we want to make sure that those folks are engaged and aware of how to ride safely and where to ride. So since we can't do any in-person engagement, we've got Bike to Campus Week, which we're working on. So check out the blog, promote it if you can with networks, especially folks who are new to riding. We hope to have a good program for new riders.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Bruce?
Wait, no, so I just want to know, when is Bike to Campus Week again? Like, what is this? When does it start? And then when is, like, I guess it ends?
Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mention that. It's September 21st to 25th. So not next week, but the week after.
Yeah, the whole theme is welcome new riders, and there'll be things from like how to dress to like bike to work and commute to like hearing from e-bike users and like that whole thing, how to access the trails, how to traffic skills 101, kind of like a crash course in biking in the streets with traffic, just all sorts of stuff. So it's really going to be a packed week with a lot of guest speakers. Thursday will be the general questions day. So if you do have general questions, tune in and just ask them to people who have been in the bike world for a very long time, and just a bunch of other people. It's going to be really exciting. So tune in. Who would like to go next? Mark?
Mark Howe, West Pittsburgh. We haven't met too much with the COVID kind of thing. We've had this month is the annual Dennis Flanagan Memorial Ride. This year it's going to be virtual, so starting September 2nd through the 15th. It's riding from the south side to McKees Rocks and back. If you make the ride, what we want you to do is document things that you see on the route, obstacles, things that ought to be improved. Either send them to 311, or since it's a state road, send it to PennDOT. We've had 2 trolley trail meetings. The second ended up being rained out. Mother Nature was not cooperative, and it's still work in progress trying to get from Crafton Boulevard down into near Woodville. But eventually the process will be done, and I guess John left. It ends up somewhere right by the Old Stone Tavern. Lori Beth is doing another Zoom at the Reynolds Street City Council discussions, and she might have had some other things to say, but didn't leave me any notes, so
That's fine.
I'm done.
Thank you, Liz.
Just one comment. I think I was invited to like one of the very first meetings around the trolley trail. Sorry if I misnamed it, but if you ask Lori Beth to let us know at Southside Smart Streets, we'd like to learn more about that and see how we can support.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you want to go next, Liz, since you're talking?
Yeah, and I think I already spilled all the beans, but yeah, we wanted to have kind of a neighbor way party, celebrate, the city and Domi. I don't know if they get much celebration or not. So, but we are really happy about the neighbor way, and we want people to experience it however they feel like it. And if you are curious about, the neighbor way, any neighbor way, whatever, come out and check out Southsides. It's really, minimal things I feel like going on, but it slows traffic a little bit and connects the neighborhood in the South Side underneath Birmingham Bridge. When that was finally connected, we really wanted to have a little party for it. And we were a little bit inspired by the Bloomfield Humps Party, my Humps Party. We heard so much about that we wanted to have our own Humps Party. So, yeah, and I don't know that we really have anything else going on. We're still meeting monthly via Zoom. We really wanted to keep up the momentum, but a lot of our focus has been on that and the letter to the city, and yeah, and we've been working a little bit with Anna on a campaign for the intersection of PJ McCardle and Arlington, which is just dangerous all around, but hopefully we'll think of some ideas to improve it and draw attention to it, and that's it. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Who wants to go next? I'll call on Greenfield. Anybody from there? Andrew, George?
Hey, Greenfield's new. We just had one meeting. I think we're trying to think of a name first. So I think that's pretty much all we got. Did I miss anything, George?
No, we're still deciding on the name. That's the big one. I think we're, what are we? We're less than a month old, so.
Yeah, I know the group attended, the Hazelwood Green had a public meeting about their development. So they are already jumping into public meetings. So go them. And welcome to Bike Ped Advocacy and everybody. So thank you for coming. I know Andrew has been coming to a lot of things, but George is new and the group is new. So yeah. Who wants to go next? Bruce?
Sure, I can go next. So we are working currently on 2 things. One of them is continuing something that we did 5 years ago, which is called Stoop City. which is essentially a porch fest for Bloomfield. Definitely during a time of pandemic where a lot of our music venues and artists and performers aren't able to express themselves through interior spaces. We're trying to kind of celebrate the street life that a lot of our neighborhoods have, particularly in Bloomfield, where we have all types of stoops and steps and lawns and porches. We're really looking towards kind of celebrating those as our current safe and distant performance spaces for our local performers. So we have a website that's going to go up pretty soon, but we're trying to kind of relive the Porch Fest idea. So if anybody has any acts or any neighbors in Bloomfield that would like to give up their, not give up, but to volunteer up their porch for an hour or two for either a musician or a puppeteer or a magician or a clown to perform in the space that is kind of between the public space and the private space, that interstitial street space that we have really unique typology here in Pittsburgh, please let me know, or go to our website and check that out. So that's the Stoop City. The second thing is we do have a neighborway coming into Bloomfield and Friendship that we're very excited about, which is going to be on Comrie and Coral, and it's basically going to be running parallel to Penn Avenue. And as many of you know, biking on Penn Avenue is like very stressful and very like should I go faster, should I go slower, what should I do, there's buses and everything. So we're really happy that this Comrie Coral neighborway is going on. The Domi is actually having a final public kind of open house. It's not really a meeting, it's not really a they're not really going to be going over design, but it's more of an open house specifically about the intersection of Matilda and Comrie. So some of the things that we've heard from neighbors is that the original design, which was going to be a diverter, which would have been Pittsburgh's first diverter, that was going to go onto Matilda. They are actually updating the design so that it's not a diverter. Instead, it's going to be more of an enhanced, safe walking, pedestrian, and biking intersection that hopefully will slow down traffic on Matilda. They're trying to get input. So if anybody here can attend, that would be tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. There's a Zoom link that I can definitely send out, but it is going to be a Zoom link with Cassandra Leopold, who is the new active transportation planner for the city of Pittsburgh, as well as Paige Anderson, who is the staff engineer for Domi. The two of them will be on this call to answer questions. So this will be a good time if you have any questions about that. From Bloomfield Livable Street standpoint, the two things that we are concerned about is that without the diverter, which is fine, but without the diverter, that means that one of the streets will actually have potentially more through traffic than what is currently existing. And it's our belief that as a neighborway program, that the city should be trying to reduce vehicular traffic volumes, not increase them. And so without this diverter, there's potentially more ways for drivers to go through an intersection, which is supposed to be a neighborway. So it'd be great if we can ask questions about, like, are there other ways that the city is trying to reduce vehicular traffic on a neighborway instead of increase it? The second thing is also asking to see if any of these neighborway crossings with any of the other streets are going to have traffic calming, particularly on Comrie. If anybody's familiar around Friendship Park, these streets would be like Edmund Street, Matilda Street, Millville Street, and Grove Street. When they intersect with Comrie, there currently is no stop sign, there's currently no traffic lights. And so introducing a neighborway onto it, we're wondering, is there any way to slow down traffic so drivers understand that there is a neighborway coming up in front of them? Those are kind of the two things that we've been trying to get answers from both Paige and Cassandra, and we're not really sure if they have a plan yet, or if there's something like in 2 years or 3 years. That is tomorrow at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. It is a Zoom link that you have to register on. Otherwise, there is a email link that you can email or go on to BikePGH to give input about that neighborway. We are in full support of it, though. And we just want to make sure that the neighborway is going to either maintain the same vehicular traffic or reduce it and not increase it. And I can send out that email for everyone.
Sorry, Bruce. What street was it that has the neighborway?
It's 2 streets, and it actually goes from Bloomfield to Friendship all the way to Negley. It is Comrie, which basically turns into Coral in Friendship, around Friendship. Both of the streets are parallel to Penn Avenue, about just a block south of Penn Avenue. Comrie and Coral. I know, it's like 2 C's. They are like these small streets. It's kind of like, which one are they? But if you go on Google Maps, you can see that they are kind of perfect neighborway typology streets. Like if there wasn't any other street that was more perfect, it would be Coral and Comrie, which is why we're so excited and we want this project to happen. We just want to make sure that there's going to be less vehicular traffic on them than currently is. And we want the city to ensure that. So that is one question that we all could ask them when they're looking either at Hatfield Street, at, any of these other streets in the South Side or these other neighborway parallel streets.
Thanks, Bruce. Who would like to go next? We only have 5 minutes.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
First of all, who knows what's behind me? The Manchester Bridge. What's there now? Mr. Rogers. Okay. A few things going on that are, kind of in concert with some of the new stuff you've all been talking about. From Brighton to Ridge, it looks like we're going to get parking protected cycle track on the park side, the east side of Ridge. That's from, east side of Brighton Road, from Ridge to West North Avenue. At the Merchant Street underpass, that's the shortcut from the stadiums up to North, which is, as everyone knows, North Avenue is the interstate ramp to I-279. At that underpass, it's going to be slightly widened because they're eliminating some of the structure for the bridge, and Domi was looking at advisory bike lanes. I had to look it up. Now I know advisory bike lanes are lanes that cars are expected to drive in when they can, but bikes have priority. It doesn't look like we're going to get that, but it will be restriped. We noticed riding around the last couple of days that Galveston on the north side, which is a little cross street through Allegheny West, is a slow street. Galveston. Let's see, Brighton, Merchant, Allegheny Circle, still on the books. They've had apparently their last community input and a readback. And it looks like construction next year, maybe wrapping up about this time next year. Allegheny Circle, protected bike lane all the way around. And East Street bike lane has been, I don't want to say extended to Perrysville, but there's now climbing lane from Perrysville down the hill toward the interstate on East Street, from what's called Perry Hilltop. Unfortunately, there's a half or 3/4 of a mile that needs to be done yet to connect the lane coming up from the city to the lane coming down from Perry Hilltop. And I wanted to mention one other thing. I don't know if Kelsey is still with us, but when I was preparing for a talk I was going to give a few years ago, I interviewed people on the trail. And it's really interesting. These are not rich people. These are retired people. This is cheap family entertainment. And it's transportation, essential transportation for essential workers. One of the guys who really impressed me, who I stopped and talked to on the trail, it's been probably 3 years ago now, was a man in his 20s. And I asked him if he was just out exercising. He said, no. He says, I'm going to work. I work in a truck terminal down here in Chateau in the day. I wash dishes in the strip district at night. And this is how I get back and forth to my work. And I don't own a car. And that's the real story that needs to be told, how essential that is. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Jerry. Abe, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So the North Euclid Neighborway is in, and the pilot has been going well. I imagine a lot of you have gone over to ride it, it sounds like. But I don't know if you heard earlier in the meeting, the rest of the traffic circles probably won't be going in until the fall. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Anna. So there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done there. I got an email today saying that the East Liberty Boulevard bike lane upgrade is paused, and that they're going to be focusing more on traffic intersection safety rather than, I think, a full like bike lane makeover, which is kind of a downside. I need to follow up on that. And then also there's a link for the Negley Run Boulevard bike lane upgrades. They're looking for feedback through the 16th of September. And that's on Move Forward PGH's website / the NRB Negley Run Bike Lane or Boulevard. So those are some updates. One more at the bottom of Negley Run Boulevard, the Cattail Trail is almost done. I was down there like a few weeks ago and it looked like they were paving everything. So I'm hoping to post some photos of that down the road and put it on our Facebook page to keep everyone updated. So that's all I really have.
Thank you. Who else would like to give an update?
I actually have a quick, I have a quick question for Abe. Abe, do you know anything about the Reservoir Drive bike, I guess like non-vehicular street that is around the reservoir currently? Like, is that being opened up again soon?
Yes, yeah, I should have said something. That was opened up, I think, a week ago. I found out through my neighbor. So I don't think there was like an official, like we're opening it back up, but they just took the barriers down and now it is open to car traffic, unfortunately.
Just a quick update from Better Streets. We covered some things and I missed the last meeting, and our meetings are tomorrow. So Anna, if you have anything I miss, well, just feel free. But we haven't, unfortunately, the underpass under the 40th Street Bridge is kind of stalled and the city hasn't made a lot of progress, but we're really hoping for it and hoping for it soon because we're very jealous of the South Side's Birmingham Bridge underpass and we want one in Lawrenceville. So still pushing for that. I also just wanted to mention that the Hazelwood Green public process for the Riverfront Master Plan is coming up. And so please put your input in. That's a place that there could be a lot more amenities. The bike lanes are in already, which are very nice, but it would be great to have more amenities. So that could be something that people mention in the public outreach if you're so inclined.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else who hasn't spoken yet, would they like to share anything before I say goodnight to everybody? Shady Side or Squirrel Hill, or the other folks who are on? Alex?
Yeah, I absolutely am not prepared to say anything, but just flag that Shady Side State Streets is still moving, and one of our members organized a petition that was signed by, I think, 56 people, Anna, for the Reynolds Street action. And we're happy to join some of you others in working on the Bike to Campus activities. Thanks, Anna, for leading that. And I'll let you know if I think of anything else.
Great. Well, last call for any updates from folks. Otherwise, go ahead.
It's not an update, but I just want to say that that I heard from different sources that even though the Reservoir Drive lane around the Highland Park Reservoir is open now, that apparently different groups that were originally against it during this brief 2-month period saw how great it was. They have now kind of switched sides and advocated for keeping it closed. So I guess that's kind of like a call for all of you here on the call, that like, even though we might have detractors and we might have people who are like against us now, that sometimes just showing them that, you know, when you make streets slower for all people, that it increases the quality of life for all residents. And so like, don't be discouraged, but maybe it does take a little like pilot project, or it maintains a little like we got to show them first before we tell people, or before people actually like come onto our site. So like, we might be getting a lot of pushback now, but stay positive, and it's going to be great, and we're going to have a great, you know, great city for all.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, so thank you everybody for attending. It was really nice to see everybody's face via Zoom, and I'll be sure to send out the notes and the video link as soon as I can, but just have a great rest of the week, and then see you at your meetings and stuff. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Anna.
Bye. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.